Hey there, Saltydayn here, and this will be my guide for the woven faction in Lost Epoch. As always, this video is timestamped, so you can just jump to any section that you're interested in. If you're just interested in how to farm about like 2000 memory ember per echo that you're doing, and you're not interested in the basics and nomenclature, just jump to that part, or to the interaction and usability of woven echoes. You can also do that as well. But first of all, I'm going to start with basics so you know where to even start and understand what these terms all mean. So first of all, we have the memory ember. This is the resource used in the faction for either purchasing woven echoes from the weaver himself, or from herself, I think, or to utilize it in a weaver tree to respec things. This is like the main currency used, and it's also used to level you up, right? The more memory ember you drop and acquire or spend on her purchases, the further this bar will go until you eventually reach rank 10, where at max level, and get all the weaver tree points that you can acquire through these means. Now, there are also, of course, things on your maps, which is one of them is the Cemetaries, which will be echo nodes that can randomly spawn on your echo web. These will always hold a tomb, and this tomb, or the map itself, is rather small, and it's basically just about the tomb, where at the end of this you will be able to have a similar altar that looks sort of similar to this, but larger, that allows you to place woven echoes into your current echo web. It will also hold certain stations based on the fact if it is a woven echo that put it there yourself, or if it's naturally spawned one. If it's naturally spawned one, it will only allow you to enchant your idols as well, or the class specific idols. If it's just a regular tomb, these can spawn on every echo web, or every echo node in your echo web, right? Just at random, and they will first of all put new monsters into your map. These will put just woven monsters into your map. Especially the most important ones are the cocoons, because the cocoons, if you pop them, they can, for like an 80% to 20% chance, will either spawn a small orb that possesses an enemy, which then drops you some memory ember based on its rarity. So if it's rare or a champion mob, it will drop more than just the usual normal mob, or it will just spawn a rare mob itself, which also holds some memory ember. Now, once you go into these tombs, these usually hold, when you kill all the rares and champions in there, quite a bunch of just echo drops, some woven echo drops, and just regular stuff as well, but usually it's more about these echo drops, in my opinion, and also the loot at the end. Now that we know all of this, we should learn how to actually acquire memory ember, because it's the most important thing, right? We want to level up the fastest, and we want to purchase the most amount of things from the weaver. Now, there is a strat here which we can show on stream here, or which I can show on stream to you. This basically is a sort I've been using for a while now to actually farm up to 2000 memory ember per echo node I'm doing. Usually it's around an average of like 1.5k. Here, just for quick reference, is a Google Sheet of like 100 echoes I've done to just sort of get the average of this. This is with my current echo tree, and also like on base. I think it was done on a base 100 corruption, so it shouldn't really change too much of the corruption as far as I could see. It seems to be like the same on like 100 to 300, so I just assume it's the same. I can't say for sure, however. So as you can see, it's an average of 1.5k per echo node. However, we utilize about like 750 memory ember to even buy these woven echoes. Now, how would you go about this? You see in the middle there's a node, or a woven echo called the Lostwood Folly. I don't know if I have one. I have one. There we go. It's a Lostwood Folly. This is basically a node that will hold all 3 of the Fate Weavers for you to kill. These can be moderately annoying and difficult for you to handle, but once you do so and finish this woven echo, all the surrounding echoes, which you can see marked in, I think I've done it in red or in green, either or, these will be able to have additional packs in them. These packs are set to be more challenging. However, they don't really feel too challenging, to be honest, but they will drop you some memory ember, and it's way more than you usually do. What you now do to utilize this is you could either just use normal echoes and just put this somewhere on the echo web tree, right? Or you use the False Temple, which would be here. You can just buy this. Both of these you can be acquired from her. You can just buy both the Lostwood Folly here and the Lost Temple here. Both of these cost a total of 1.75k, which is still more than you get per one of these false temples, so it should be fine to buy these, right? And the false temples in itself are amazing, right? These are amazing for loot and everything, because like 20 shrines in there, lots of loot. But I'm focusing on woven stuff here, right? So you put all of these 4 symbols around one of these Lostwood Follies, and once you complete this, these will get buffed, default temples. Keep in mind, you have to do the Lostwood Folly first, okay? The first node that you need to travel into the Lostwood Folly will also get used up, so it's kind of unfortunate, so you don't really need to put Woven Echo there if you don't want to, and just save up on some cost, but usually you want to have at least 1 travel node in there, then you put all of these around, and then you just repeat the process, right? You just put more of these surrounding them. It's usually 1 Lostwood Folly and 5 of these false temples to just efficiently like integrate into your current echo web and just add onto your existing structure. Now, these are usually the most important or the most like beneficial to farm Ember because it's far more than you can get on a whole map that you're clearing. It's either a tomb or a cemetery. These usually are rather important to acquire more of the Woven Echoes because the drop chance there is really, really high, and it's really good to sustain this, and it's probably better to farm these this way compared to just buying them from the trader. Now, there are also some others here who are very important. For example, there's one combination that I utilize a lot in solo self-found, or in hardcore solo self-found for that matter, and it is the Fasted Turtle. The Fasted Turtle is basically a gambling station, so this will accept any unique that has at least 1 legendary potential, and it will upgrade this unique to +1 legendary potential, or use up all of it and put it down to 0. So it's really, really hard bargain here, and a really, really hard gamble, especially because chance to upgrade the LP seems to be tied to the item itself. So if you have a red ring with 1 LP in there, you could probably put like 100 of these in there, and they would probably not yield you too many of the 2 LPs, probably 0 honestly. But if you use something like a Kestrel, for example, these would probably just upgrade from 1 to 2 and 3 most of the time, it feels like, because these are really easy to acquire on 1, 2, and 3 LP compared to other items. This is basically the rules I follow. I thought it was like 25% chance to upgrade and 75% to fail, but that doesn't seem to be very true. Usually I use this to just put in any of my 1 LP uniques or just some trash 2 LP, 3 LP uniques I found while playing that are not useful for me because again I'm playing a solo account font or solo character font for that matter. I don't really need too much, I'm just looking for my gear and nothing else, but if you're a trade player who's merchant skilled for example, you might want to look somewhere else and just use the items who are just more profitable, so to speak. But it's really high gamble, but it can pay off. I got quite a few like 3 LP, even some 4 LP uniques from there, so it's quite nice. Now there's also a huge amount of 0 LP items you will acquire through this, and now there comes the Conquered Tower. This is basically just a map or an echo for that matter, which holds 7 or 8 I think it was nemesis, which can be used to just use the egg that it will always give you, put the unique with 0 LP in there and just hope to get LP back, and then go back to the turtle, which means you basically want to have a lot of these and just very few of these, because the Fasted Turtle can just be used, like do it one time and just use up all your items. Also here, really good thing is, once you do this, you also acquire a very, like one of the very rare shards, which is usually the level 2 something shard or class specific shards for all the items you put in there. I don't know which routes they follow, I can't seem to see a real pattern, but it helps a lot to acquiring these. So whenever you do a lot of these, it really helps just generate more of these rare shards, which is also why I'm picking up so many 2 or 3 LP uniques, which aren't even for my class even, right? It's just like mage or like shaman or whatever, which I don't even need to use, but I still use these just to put them into the turtle basically and just throw them away. Now, these are really helpful, but there are other good things here. For example, there is one I can't show right now, but I put it on screen. It's one of the 2 that actually give you a lot of chests. The other one would probably be about this one somewhere here. I don't know. There we go. Vault of the Barnacle King, right? Both of these will have a lot of chests. The Barnacle King will have chests with loot lizard in them. The other map will just have chests, but it's more common to get these. I would personally recommend you to imprint these on your tree. I will show you in a second what we are doing on the tree, but I would personally use these because you want to build this, the false temples by yourself. You can also imprint the Conquered Tower because, again, Conquered Tower is something you will also use a lot if you want to gamble with the Farsight Turtle. Both of these are really important. Now, also, just for your clarification to understand what these symbols mean, usually a hammer indicates that there's some option to craft something or to do some craft crafting here that might be beneficial to you, might be not. For example, stuff like this, for example, the Great Bridge, that just allow you to use the inventory that is supplied to you 3 times to turn all set items into little shards, which can be useful, but maybe just once, maybe twice, and then you're probably good to go with all these shards, usually, most of the time. And some others you might just not never utilize because they are just not helpful at all. Like, for example, Ordnance Swatch is really cool to change attributes from strength, int, or dex to attunement and vice versa. But again, no vitality, sadly. But this might just be used again, like once, so you can convert like 5 tabs of exalted items, and then you never go there again until you need some other attribute or something. So some of these are more useful than others. Then there are also things like these boss things, right? These boss icons usually indicate that there is a boss there, which can be easy or hard depending on your build. Now, there are also, again, some are more useful than others. Usually these aren't not too great. For example, the Heart of the Hive is not too great. It has like some relic that might be beneficial to some. We have something like Antipode Rift and Seeker Summit. Again, these might be useful to your class. Usually they are not. They're not too great of items here. Also something like the Defiant Fortress. Again, probably not too great. This one actually is quite nice to finish early if you can. Keep in mind the Nemesis is really hard, but it will add another Void Nemesis, which allows you to just get more or better exalted items from Nemesis. But besides that, it's not really too important. Just consistently farm this. But there are, for example, others, which is like, for example, Collapsing Horizon over here, which is really fucking important because this one will allow you to kill the Harbinger of a timeline and dropping the boss loot. So you could just go into, like, let's say the Fall of the Empire, I think it is called, where you kill Horton and get Angers of Oblivion from that. It's really easy and it's really fun to do. Also, you could go for Fading Brink, which is basically the same sort of thing, but yeah, this is hard. Okay, this is really hard. Don't underestimate this. These can be super annoying, especially for people who don't have too much damage mitigation. They deal so much damage. Like, they crit me, or they don't even crit me, but they can hit me for 3.5k damage on 300 corruption, which isn't fun. Like, it's a lot. So don't underestimate this, but this probably gets the highest amount of loot. It's like basically just killing all 10 Harbingers in a row and getting all of the loot. It's crazy. Really good, but also really hard, right? So these can be, again, these can be good. These can be terrible or hard, as well as this one, for example, which is the Majotha stuff. It's okay to farm her. She will usually drop her shield, as far as I've seen, which is a really good shield, but it might not be good for every class again. But yeah, those are basically the most important ones. The rest isn't too insane. I feel like there's some else that is basically Oribus, an Oribus fight where you can fight 5 Oribuses, which you can just place on your Worker Web whenever you find a cemetery, which is really fortunate, honestly, to just push your corruption up, because it still counts as an Oribus kill. However, the most important thing is it's just literally 5 Oribus kills in one, which is really, really important if you want his drops, like in Omnis, for example, or the Rings, the Siphons of Anguish, or the belt, the Shattered Chains, which I don't have currently equipped, or something else, right? Those can be helpful. Now, enough for this. Now let's get to the tree, because this isn't getting us anywhere. I explained to you all the most important things. Now let's understand the Weaver tree, because this one is actually quite interesting to see. So we have a few approaches here, and I want to clarify that nothing that you can do here is like a one thing only, and that is the tree to end all means, basically. That's not how this works. Usually this works in a case where whatever you need to do is supplied here, and you can choose what you want right now. You can respec this up here for 20 memory embers as well. And I'll put a few pre-made trees with progression of these trees in the description that you can follow if you want to. Now, let's explain a few things first. First of all, these slots that you can see where you can imprint stuff. Again, like I said, these are the echo imprints. You can choose either of your woven echoes to put in there. Usually, you should put 2 different ones in there, not the same one, because 2 different ones, I think, or feel like, have better spawn rates than just putting the same one twice. Also, make sure that if you're in a timeline that doesn't have the necessary minimum corruption here, these will not spawn. And also, these are still quite rare. So if you put these in here, they will not spawn all over the place. However, if you can, you should probably utilize more of these or more of the expensive ones, because those are again harder to get or rarer to find or whatever. So just put these in if you want to, or don't. I feel like the higher the corruption and the higher your cemeteries or tombs that you're doing, the rare ones tend to spawn more often, but I might be wrong, because I usually sacrifice most of these here, or most of these, so technically or just naturally I will have more of those. But I'm not entirely sure about this. It's just my feeling from playing. I don't have like hard data like before for the memory ember, for example, but that's how I feel about this. Now, these slots here will basically allow you, as they say, to imprint an item, and this item will then drop under certain conditions which are stated below these notes. What you need to know about this is usually just put in an item that you want to find more of. That's all there is to it. These will drop similar, so that means if you put a rare, exalted, magic, whatever item in there, the FP, so the fortune potential, will also get copied, alright? This especially goes for slots like these, because I see people doing this, for example, where they put a item in there with 0 forging potential, but like good mods or whatever, and you're like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna get so much more of these items, but yeah, you will get most of these items, but they have 0 FP. The same goes for other slots, so keep that in mind. However, they will not copy their legendary potential. If you put a red ring with like 1, 2, 3, or 4 LP in there, they will not always drop as 1, 2, 3, or 4 LP. Usually they will drop without LP, because it's a red ring. It's quite rare to get with 1 LP at least. So these will not care about this stuff. And also, they will not drop boss uniques. However, stuff like, for example, Ravenous Void are an exception, because these can also drop naturally or from Gesper. Either or is possible, so these are eligible to be dropped with these nodes. And they also dropped for me with these nodes. What I felt like from dropping stuff, I am not entirely sure which things are dropped mostly, but I saw this one and this one drop far more often than the chest one. To be fair, I don't have too many chests in my maps, but just from the percentages, I kill so many monsters that this will naturally just drop sometime. And the same goes for this, where I usually do receive a lot of echo rewards, because I'm speed echoing basically most of the time. And again, this will also result in quite a few drops naturally over the course of gameplay. So if you want something really important, put this in these both slots and not in this one, which might not be the best for you basically. Now, let's explain some notes here so we understand where we are going with this. Again, I have the trees in the description. I'm just going to briefly go over the most important points here and the most necessary points. I will leave out a lot of these things here, okay? So first of all, we have this section here. This basically allows you to block certain echo rewards, which can be a really good thing if you want to focus on specific things. For example, if you go and you actually put points into the woven echoes here or in the memory ember, these ones will show up quite often. And if you block these will show up even more, because you don't have these 3 reward options anymore, which can be a good thing. So you could also go for blocking all of these and go into these 2 reward nodes. However, if you do the thread I was doing, where you basically, as you can see on the screen here right now, travel outwards to the absolute edge to gain the massive amount of stability per echo cleared, you will usually not see too many rewards there. The echo rewards won't naturally spawn this far out. They usually tend to spawn further in to the tree. So doing this while doing this strat is probably a not so good tactic. The same goes for investing into like cemeteries and tombs, for example, here, or like pack size and tombs, when you're not doing them because you're doing the Lostwood Folly False Temple strategy. Again, these are wasted points by then. It can be beneficial to just path through these just to get some exiled mages, for example, but again, this is only for tombs and cemeteries, so if you don't do these because you're using woven echoes, then this isn't really helpful, right? So you don't want to take them if they don't match your current strategy. Now, there are some nodes who are really important on basically all trees and who are not so important on all the trees. For example, stuff like this, the champion stuff and exalted item drops, or just general rare monster spawns, for example, are really important, right? Getting more monsters, especially as Circle of Fortune players, is really huge, because you can just gain so much more loot, right? So putting these in for increased champion spawn rate is really important. The same goes for this node as well, who's also giving increased spawn rates here, or this one for twinned champions, right? All of these are really important, and stuff like this, for example, for unique item spawns aren't too great. It's just 1%. It's not too fantastic. You can put points here if you have some left, but it's not really super nice. Same goes for the keys or the dungeon packs here. Like, these are cool. They can drop you a lot of uniques, for example, Jorah's Rings or Peak of the Mountain, right? Uniques that are usually being farmed from these bosses, but just for free. And sometimes even like 2, 3, 4, 5 per map, which is hilarious, to be fair. And also sometimes, or quite often, with like 1 or even 2 or even 3 LP, as well as their respective dungeon keys. However, usually you have more than enough dungeon keys, so this isn't really too necessary. Same goes for this node. However, this one, Fury and Fortune, is quite interesting. Again, keep in mind, if you're not able to handle these are really hard. They have 60% increased attack and cast speed and movement speed. I think it's like 30% increased. But these can kill you quite easily if you're not careful, or just like stun lock you. So keep in mind, but the rewards are okay. It's not like every single monster is actually really that much of a loot pinata with this. It's sometimes you just drop like 1 rune or 1 glyph or something, and sometimes you drop more. It really doesn't feel too consistent. If you have a point left, or rather 2 points left for these, or like 3 points if you want to spec fully into this, then sure, go ahead and grab these. Again, these are also sort of like additional packs, but not really. They do seem to like cut some of the originally spawned packs and just replace them, basically. So keep that in mind. It's not like insane amounts of more monsters. Again, it's more monsters, but not really. I'd rather invest more into champions. Now let's go for the section down here, which is loot lizards, right? Loot lizards can be really important and really good, especially if you're doing stats with a lot of chests, for example. If you do the Barnacle King or the other one I mentioned earlier, where you also have the chest but not the annoying lizards running around. This pick can be great, especially also if you do the Lostwood Folly and Shrine technique, because shrines do tend to spawn a lot in these maps, like 20 or 30 of these things, and as you can see, those shrines are more common, which can help to spawn more of them consistently. Now, the node here is really important. Gilded Heads is really good, honestly. If you get Loser Shrine, it's basically guaranteed you to drop like 10 uniques, which is fantastic. However, the node before that isn't really too great. Sure, opening a cache, but you're not opening too many caches. I could still agree with you taking this if you take, for example, the favor cache here, which is still very good. It's like 500 to 1,000 favor. It's alright. It's not too fantastic, but it's good, right? But this node here is really trash, in my opinion, because you're just getting such a small rate to have like 1 additional lizard, which again, the base rate is like, I don't know, like 5%, 10%, increases by 30%. It's not really too much, right? It's like 3% more, 5%, but let's say it's 10% more chance to the base chance, which still is quite ridiculous, because I would assume my base chance is very, very high already, which it isn't. This will just spawn you 1 guaranteed when you open every 3rd cache, where this one will just spawn you 10 or 12 of these, which can also duplicate into 4 or 5 more. Like, it's crazy. They're just doing mitosis, okay? It's absurd. So this is far, far better than this one. It doesn't really matter to put the points in here. The same goes for this one. However, I would argue if you go for green lizards just to get lizard kills, it's still fine. You're investing a lot into champions already, so it is a good node technically to take. Now, some other things here, for example, the spiderlings. You can use these if you're a CF player, however, I don't think it's too important. The spiderlings usually don't yield too much favor. It's not really that great. They are okay, they're not terrible either, but it's also not really fantastic, to be fair. Then the Nemesis step up here, I don't really feel like this node is worth it, Fate Nemesis, because you already have so many with the Conquered Tower, and the same goes for this node as well. Here, this is an old tree, so don't really pay much attention to this, but the Possessed Nemesis Giant is nice if you're doing a lot of tombs and cemeteries. I did this for some testing, and it's quite okay, honestly, but again, you have the Woven Echo, which is just far better, and just doing the Lostwood Folly and Fort's Temple strat will just naturally yield you way more Nemesis encounters than this can ever naturally generate. To be fair, if you're just going into tombs and you just go there, go for the Possessed Nemesis and just dip the fuck out, sure, go for this, but it's probably not worth it too much, especially because it costs 3 points and at least 2 points of travel here if you don't really want to have the Memory Ember. Onto this note, real quick before we end this, I would highly, highly recommend you to take this on every single tree. I don't think it's worth to not take this, because it's a lot, right? This is like a lot. It's a chance to increase your embers, right? And it's just an increased drop rate of these, but I found in my test that this usually results in way more embers. The test I did before as well, I did with this node allocated, so I'd highly encourage you to take this. At least it feels good. It might just be my data, right? If I'm wrong about this, it might just be me being lucky or unlucky. I can only test so much. I did like 100 echoes. I think that's a reasonable size to at least measure something, and it feels okay, so that's all I can say. Now to the notes over here. These nodes, for example, the woven echo drop chance here, or the pile of woven echoes, those are really insane. I would highly encourage you to take these if you're doing the champion packs, or if you're going with the tombs and cemeteries, right? Both work fine. I feel like the woven fortunes here is better in my opinion, but both are really important if you want to have a lot of woven echo drops, like for example the more rare ones. This is also really good if you're just looking to farm these. This again is probably more efficient in farming woven echoes compared to Lostwood, Folly and Fort Samples, because it's just far more efficient. But if you're doing this, you want to farm tombs and cemeteries. It's the decision you have to make. Either you want to farm woven echoes or you want to farm as much memory ember as possible. Both things work. Both things will generate a natural amount of loot, monsters, kills, and COF favor, or like MG favor, whatever faction you belong to. Both work fine. Just decide on one thing only and then put the points into these. This one here, I wouldn't recommend. Again, you can just farm memory ember way easier. This one is fine, it just drops like 2 or 3 echoes, and honestly, most of these rewards are shit anyways. You don't really want to have any gold or XP once you're level 100, who cares? Also, you don't need arena keys. Who even does arena? Like, it's so weird. So anyways, I digress. However, I couldn't recommend you to take this, but I can recommend you to take this. Now, also, Enthralled Bounty is quite nice. Again, if you're doing like speed echoes and you're just speed farm bit who wants to have the highest amount of echo completion as possible, this again can be helpful, but you want to utilize this tree. Usually in endgame, you won't see this tree allocated for most people as same as this, because they will either be on the edge of the web, just running a round circle until they're done and then reset the echo, or they will do stuff like me, and they do some Lostwood, Folly, and False Temple strat, where they again probably won't have too many use for these either, because they're just killing so many monsters and don't care about this too much, and they'll probably also not have any cemeteries allocated. These just seem to be quite bad, honestly, so I can't recommend these. Now, I've been talked about this section here, as you can tell. There's a reason I'm not doing this. First of all, this side is arena, which, like, arenas are better, but they're still not really too great. They're good for XP, they're quick to do, but it's still just arena. You can't adapt with most. You can't have a chance for tombs. You won't really get memory ember there at all, it feels like. And they still are not too long, but it's also just not, it's not great. I don't know, it's not great. Yeah, they're okay, but it just doesn't feel worth it. Again, I might be wrong about this. I didn't feel like they were doing too much for me, especially because there's a chance to get arenas, and I'd much rather just delete the arenas from my echoes, just do something more meaningful. Also for the cash, it's really good, honestly, like 30% chance. It's a decent cash, especially because it spawns a new chest, which can spawn a lizard, which might just be beneficial to you. These here in the middle, I don't recommend you to take. These are just terrible. I don't know, you don't need gold ever in this game. Runes and glyphs can be nice. Again, they probably won't be, because usually they won't just drop anything that's of value. They won't just drop a pile of havoc runes or something. These over here can be okay. Like, you don't need stability. You can just do this with envy. This is unimportant, but these, for example, can be good for like more possession chance to just get more memory embers. But again, then you can just farm this with the other strat, so it's not really too nice. The same goes for the pack size here, which is like hidden between really annoying nodes, honestly, to do this. And you usually want to path from here in there. You can take these two to get the Orbis Echo I mentioned earlier, and just go in here to get the tomb chance if you're really keen on doing cemeteries and tombs. So this can be fine. If you want to go here for Purge Horizon, this also has a really fun strategy, because whenever you have either 9 Gates of Orbis or your timeline corruption is at least 50 corruption lower than any of the other ones, whichever's the highest, right? Let's assume you have one timeline which is at 350, and you do a timeline at 300 or like 299 or whatever, right? This will always generate after the first echo you're doing, or like after every like first echo you're doing on the timeline, once the conditions are met, they will always spawn an Orbis. Now you can utilize this to either just speed kill Orbis back to back to back by just going into a new timeline, doing the first from the center, then spawn Orbis, go in, kill him, and don't get any corruption, and just repeat this process over and over again, which can be good. However, I want to like let you know, and this is important, Orbis loot usually scales with distance from the center. So you usually want to do an Orbis far away, which basically defeats the whole purpose of this. So it can be helpful, especially to farm the rings, for example. You can really easily farm these, like super easy. Like this ring is shit, don't pay it any attention. This is a terrible ring. Anyways, you can really easily farm like 2 LP, 3 LP Siphons of Anguish. That's super, super chill and basically free at this point without spending much at all, because you can just use your envies to generate even more gazes to then do the Oribus run and then also just respawn him all over again to farm these rings. But you probably won't find any Omnis there, you won't find any Shattered Chains here, the belt, right? You won't find any of these. You'll probably just find like 3 or 4 rings each skill or even more, but anything else, probably not. It can still be worth it. I can see this being worth, and it's alright to do it once, but you don't really need to do this more than just a few times. You can also just drop this once and just put this into your Echo Web over here. That's also totally fine. Just get a free Oribus fight with like 5 Oribus to just generate some loot out in the open or something. Also okay. Anyways, those are things. Also, if you need Weaver Staff, this can also help you a lot. Lucky just rolls twice. Again, quite useful, especially if you do Lostwood Follies or like a lot of Lostwood Follies in a row to get a really good Clothos. For example, for builds like this, which need a good Clothos with melee void and parry chance or like crit mode or whatever, right? This can be helpful, but usually they aren't. Same goes for the boss conversion. It's nice, but not too great. Or stuff like timeline loot, again, nice but not too great. You have Collapsing Horizon, which gives you the loot off the timeline by killing the Harbingers for this. It's also quite fun, and I don't feel like Mask is any useful. The same goes for these stuff up here, the Twin Mages and Pile of Items drops. It's not too great. It can be good early on, but usually it's not. This one is currently bugged, I think, still. It's like a 1% spawn chance or even lower. I did hundreds of echoes with this allocated. It didn't spawn once. Then on my new character, I selected this one time and immediately got an Oribus spawn, but then no one else again. So it's super inconsistent, super rare. You can also go with this for like legendary potential items. Again, it's just 1% chance. It's similar to this down here, which is 1% chance for uniques. I don't really feel like it's worth it to kill 100 champions just to get one singular unique when you can do one map of Lost Temple and get like, I don't know, like 15 from one shrine. Sure, seems very fair. Like, it doesn't really hold so much value. So yeah, that's basically a tree for you. Again, everything should be in the description if you want some trees for some different playstyles. I've just prepared some basic templates for you with progression. You can, of course, change these. These are not perfect trees. Again, like I said before, you want to do this and like basically design these for your playstyle, whatever you want to do right now in the game. It's super cheap to respec, like 5 nodes cost 100 Ember basically, so to respec everything it's just 1,000, which can be found with one Lostwood Folly and the Lost Temple combination. That's literally one temple and you're done. You basically have all the resources you need to spec a 50-point tree. Also keep in mind, I didn't mention this earlier, but there also is a Woven Echo here, which will have a plus assigned to this. This basically means you can get 1 point from this. I should have mentioned this earlier probably, and not this late in the video where people probably won't listen anymore. But anyways, I think that's it. I hope you could follow my explanations here and it was helpful to y'all to understand how this actually works. Even though I didn't really show any gameplay, but probably just did something in my editing afterwards to actually show the things I was talking about. And I hope it was helpful. If it was, maybe decide to drop a like or sub this to the channel, or watch me on Twitch where I explain all of this basically all the time, all the day, and show with actual gameplay. But yeah, that's basically it. See you next time. Bye bye.